Time now once again to take a look at what's making headlines. Solange Moujon back in the studio with us. Hello again, Solange. Beginning with the news that the French president, Emmanuel Macron, has tested positive for the coronavirus.
Yeah, and in regard to this diagnosis, Libération says that it is a snow globe-like frenzy or a lot of commotion that's going on at the Élysée Palace. Now, the paper's editorial says that it's almost good news that this Jupiter-like figure, that's often as Macron is called, he's come down to earth a bit. It's a reminder, they say, that he too is normal. Now, Le Parisien has a cartoon that sort of kind of tries to comfort the president. In its cartoon, France's prime minister tells the president not to worry, as others, Trump, Bolsonaro, and Johnson, have also caught the disease and pulled through. To which Macron asked, referring to that group of leaders, quote, "Does this mean it might not be good for my image?" Now, turning from there to the paper L'Opinion, it says that it will be a mirage of transparency, or not much transparency, around the diagnosis, that while his administration has no choice but to make the news public, updates will likely be carefully crafted. A secrecy that the paper's cartoonist Cac plays with. He has a controversial French professor, Didier Raoult, offering the potentially dangerous and debunked hydroxychloroquine to the president, saying, quote, "This can stay between us."
Now, what are the French editorialists saying?
Well, for Mediapart, the French president has been irresponsible. The site says that the night before the diagnosis, 10 people had dinner with Macron, shirking France's current 6-person rule for the holidays, and that testing wasn't carried out systematically at the Élysée. A lack of setting a good example that, for Mediapart, says has further sapped away at the president's credibility, or the little credibility they say that he has left. Meanwhile, Le Figaro wonders where Macron got coronavirus and who he gave it to, as he was at the European 27 summit last week. A handful of European leaders have gone into self-quarantine out of precaution, and the paper says, though, that there were extensive safety measures in place, so it's unlikely, they say, potentially, that other people got it.
All right, well, let's move on to another story now. One of our top stories here at Live from Paris. In Nigeria, word that 300 students who had been kidnapped last week have apparently been freed.
Yeah, and there is jubilation in some streets in Nigeria. A big sigh of relief for those of us following the story, and especially for the parents, according to the Daily Trust. Now, the Nigerian paper says it's not clear yet if all of the boys were freed, that the negotiations took a long time because there were actually 3 groups of bandits involved. Meanwhile, the Nigerian paper Punch says that they spoke to sources that said that no ransom was paid and that Boko Haram was not even involved. That the video circulating by Boko Haram is of actually other boys from a different school. So it seems like there are many questions still to be answered here about these terrorism abductions that are terrorizing Nigerians.
Yeah, indeed. Now for some environmental news, and you found some very troubling articles about the air we breathe.
Yeah, let's start with the UK and Ella Kissy Deborah's story. Her face was on many front pages yesterday in the UK, and today The Guardian tells us of this landmark judgment over the 9-year-old's death. Coroners ruled that it was due to London's pollution. And The Guardian says that this is a worldwide first, and it needs to sort of set the ball rolling in regard to change and more attention being paid to the air we breathe. Now, we are not all created equal when it comes to the air we breathe, and the New York Times has a stunning article today that compares 2 children living close to each other in New Delhi, and it shows that wealth there makes a major difference. The poor boy profiled, he breathes in 4 times more pollution per day than the middle-class girl. Now, this is because the family doesn't have air purifiers, they don't have a car to travel in, and they spend more time outdoors. A difference that could, the article says, shave off around 5 years of the boy's life. So that's a big, that's a number of years. Now, finally, a last one on air pollution. It's no happier either. This one is about the air we breathe on airplanes. The LA Times tells us that for years, the airline industry has said that these fume events, or cases where toxins from the engines seep into the cabin, that they're rare. Well, the LA Times found that it actually happens quite frequently, and that it can be incredibly dangerous. The paper argues that it may be time for air purifiers and sensors sensors inside our airplane cabins.
And also make some of us who aren't traveling during this pandemic maybe be a little bit happier that we're staying put. Finally, Solange, you have some Christmas cheer for us.
Yes, after all that, we need some smiles.
Yes.
Let's start with the Wall Street Journal. They are entering the matching pajama debate. Love them or hate them. The paper explains that it is a tradition that dates back to the 1950s and that it is these often ugly matching outfits, well, they're gaining traction as people are, because of COVID, staying home in their pajamas.
I like the cats.
Yeah, the cats are cute.
The cats.
They look happy, but I can't do it. Now, if warming pajamas don't float your boat, as I don't wear them, well, drinking may be that warming ingredient you need. The New York Times tells us of a story of the Chartreuse liqueur. This is a fascinating piece about the bright green French drink. It explains that only 2 people know the recipe, that it is made by monks who live in the mountains, in a rather COVID-friendly existence, actually, that has been going on for 900 years. And so if pajamas and alcohol aren't your thing, well, let's try Santa letters. The New York Times has another article about children's letters to Santa Claus. Unfortunately, they talk increasingly about COVID this year and financial difficulties, but there is a silver lining. The Times tells us that the number of people who are helping out with those letters is increasing, that all 23,000 letters have been adopted by individuals. In other words, people have said, hey, I will offer those presents that little kid asked for and send it along, and the post office then distributes them.
Santa's little workers.
Exactly.
Being very busy. All right. Thank you very much, Solange. Solange Moujon with a look at what's making headlines.